This is the City Council meeting, Seward City Council on February 27th, and we're calling to order at 7 p.m. And Chief, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Tonight's roll call: Barnwell.
Here.
DeMoss. Here. Calhoun.
Here.
Osenga.
Here.
Finch.
Here.
Wells.
Here.
Mayor McClure.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We're now to citizens' comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing. We actually have 2 public hearing items. At this segment, there is a sign-in sheet, and those signed in will have the first opportunity to speak. You get 3 minutes, and the total time is 36 minutes. If you didn't sign in, I'll be asking, and you'll get to speak at the end of the others. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed in?
Yes, ma'am. The first person signed in is Christy Terry.
Hey.
Hello, Christy Terry. I'm here tonight representing the Alaska Railroad Corporation outside city limits. Mayor, council members, and the public, it is great to be here. I'm asking for your support of Resolution 2023-022. Some of you may remember last year the Alaska Railroad obtained permission from the state to issue bonds in the amount of $6 million to replace the passenger dock and cruise ship terminal that are both at the end of their useful life. For even more history, that was built after the 1964 earthquake, completed in 1966. Through the years, it's gone through a number of uses. Now it's primarily a passenger dock. The Alaska Railroad is required to obtain permission to bond from the state. However, those bonds are not a liability of the state or the citizens of Alaska, and no state dollars will be used to repay them. In this case, our partner, the Alaska Railroad's partner, Royal Caribbean Group, which you might know as the Royal Celebrity cruise ships that come, there's actually 3 different brands under that group, will be committed to backing these revenue bonds. So following last year's approval, Alaska Railroad and longtime partner under the project continued to develop and work on the project design, and the updated design was expanded to better meet the needs of the cruise ships and the cruise ship industry, ensure operational safety, account for inflation, and best support Alaska's growing visitor industry for generations to come. They also heard, when the city took them out to the cruise ship terminal, that they want a large building for this community to use in the off-season instead of just a open pavilion in the summer. They see how much the community really does utilize that facility. And they're committed to making this a generational project that anchors them here in Seward and in the state of Alaska. So in 2022, we received that bonding authority, and the new project is now $150 million. So we're going back this session for obtain permission for another $90 million worth of bonding authority. So this project, the total project is now $150 million, as I said, and this dock remains a critical connection for hundreds of thousands of cruise passengers and visitors arriving each summer, many whom travel to bring tourism dollars to Seward and then onward to other businesses throughout the state. And here in Seward, Seward has been a marine town, and this is another opportunity for both longshore labor and other support jobs that, again, anchors this group in Seward, keeping that industry going. So we will be bringing a bill forward this session, and it's critical that we pass the $90 million bond authorization this legislative session so that we are on track with those partners to replace this dock that is, again, at the end of its useful life, and then move forward with the new dock and the new cruise ship terminal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, next signed in is Bruce Jaffa.
Bruce Jaffa, outside city limits. Speaking to ordinance 2023-003. This is a fairly clear house cleaning resolution ordinance that the manager just explained to me. There's one item in it that I'd like to make sure that you do pay attention to. I am a lifetime union member and a strong supporter of organized labor. I've dealt with, as a steward, as a president of a local.
Sorry.
Excuse me, Bruce,
It's just going to be a
it's a
discussion.
public hearing
It-
item.
It is.
It took me a minute to find it, but it is an item for public hearing.
Okay, so I'll talk at it to that. One thing I can't find in here, and I thought I did find earlier, was a discussion about Senator Burkowski's bullet points for capital budget. There were 5 bullet points. Is that in discussion tonight also?
I'm not supposed to, I believe indirectly in the priorities. So
So that's going to be later too?
it's not a,
Then I can talk about it now?
you can talk about
There are several bullet points. One of them is renewing sidewalks through the town. At an earlier meeting, I spoke to my preference to see Wurzbo or embedded tubing put in any new sidewalk in town. I haven't seen that's been moved on or any action, but I think that should be seriously considered. Along with that, there's absolutely nothing in there that talks about the library heat loop project. This $5 million project should certainly be included as a bullet point in that. If we're talking about infrastructure and sidewalk repair, getting that project done is timely. The library itself is poorly designed and suffers serious problems. It was shut down for 2 days recently because of heat problems. I've been in that building myself. I've toured it. It's embarrassing how simple some of the solutions could be with an proper application of money. It needs some redesign to the point where the librarian, to change the temperature, has to go into the basement and use a laptop computer to adjust the temperature, which doesn't even affect the librarian's office. There's no ventilation in the librarian's office. And to ventilate that space upstairs, they open the window. All the windows. If you go upstairs, on most days, you'll see all the windows open while the heat plant is running full bore. It needs attention that it's not getting.
Thank you, Bruce. Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, next signed in is Carrie Ann Baker.
Hi, good evening. Carrie Ann Baker, Director of Member Relations with Homer Electric Association. I just wanted to let everyone know that we have started our listening sessions. We were here last Tuesday and met with about 11 community members, both from within and without the city. I also have a new calendar of events that I've already submitted and would like to go out through your guys' listserv so that everyone knows when we're going to be here. I've got to update it every 2 weeks because I can't put the whole month on one page. So I'll be back in another 2 weeks to put this up. But we are going to be at the library tomorrow at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And they're more conversations. We start out with whatever anyone in the room wants to talk about. They can ask any question they want. If we don't know the answer, we have been contacting people in between. And starting in March, we're going to have specific topics so that we can bring over experts from various departments within Homer Electric so that anyone who's interested in cybersecurity might want to come. And it's not a presentation, but we'll just have those people in the room, or anybody who's interested in regulatory or the RCA or what post-closing could look like. We'll have those experts in the room to answer those questions. And then we're just going to kind of funnel through all of those expertises. So we'll also show up and give presentations if people want to. Mr. Jaffa was kind enough to invite us to talk on heat pumps at the end of the month. And that's kind of what we're doing. So if there's any questions or anybody wants, we also have our email. We do look at it. We do respond. So we're around. And if there's some place or some population that we're missing, please let us know because we will show up. We're going to go over to the high school for Career Day because we just enjoy doing that. So it's good to see all of you. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, next signed up is Wayne Ogle.
Madam Mayor and council members, my name is Wayne Ogle. I do live outside the city limits of Seward in a place called Nikiski. I'm here As a member of the HEA board, I was recently, or I'd say last May, I was elected to the board. And I just wanted to quickly voice my support for the proposed merger of HEA with the Seward Electric system. I think it's a great opportunity for both the city of Seward and also HEA, and also the community of the borough area, the peninsula, to keep highly skilled local jobs here in our community, expand economic development, and create energy security. I was an HEA member for many years, and I was always impressed how HEA always treated me as far as being a member. Whenever I had an issue or a concern or even a question, they were very much interested in addressing that particular issue. As a board member, I was able to take a look more closely as to the operation of HEA. I've been very impressed from all levels of the company. It is well run. They're very highly motivated, and they really believe in what they're doing. So it's a co-op that is really serving our members. We're all members of it. So I urge you to think positively about this. I think it's a win-win for both the HEA as well as the community in Seward. And I look forward to your support in doing that. Thank you all.
Thank you, Wayne, and it's good to see you.
Good seeing you.
We sat by each other at Borough Assembly for several years.
We had one instance in which we voted the same way 3 times, and we did a high five.
It was quite a miracle.
But I can tell you, you've got a good one here in there. So.
A little editorial comment. Madam Clerk.
Next signed in is Dan Furlong.
Greetings, Madam Mayor and council members. My name's Dan Furlong, and I also don't live in the city limits of Seward. I live in Soldotna, Alaska. I'm the president of the board of directors for Homer Electric Association. I'd like to acknowledge my wife of 45 years, Claudia, and she is a retired employee of HEA. We've had commercial buildings, residential buildings, and so on for nearly 50 years on the peninsula, and getting service from Homer Electric. Impeccable service and outstanding. The biggest quality that I find in Homer Electric is the customer service and the quality of their employees. It's just outstanding. But really what I wanted to do is stop by as a board chair and explain to you the excitement that and the opportunity that our board members have to join with the citizens of Seward and the city council and the employees of Seward to form a new cooperative and benefit both parties tremendously. As a board chair, I wanted to let you know that our members, our board members, are committed to the project. We're committed to the citizens of Seward, and we're definitely committed to the employees. Thank you very much for your opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Next signed in is Brad Janorski.
Good evening. You guys have seen me before, and we won't need the timer. I'll keep it pretty brief. You were kind enough to get...
For the record, we still need your name.
Brad Janorski, General Manager, Homer Electric,
Thank you.
outside the city limits. You guys were gracious enough to listen to me 2 weeks ago for 10 minutes, so I won't take up much of your time this evening. I do want to thank you again for your time and for considering the sale. We had a pleasant time last Tuesday presenting to the Rotary, and the folks there were fantastic, great questions, and that's just something we're trying to get everybody in the community to do, is ask good questions, and we'll give them straight, honest answers to the best of our abilities. So again, I appreciate all of you, your time this evening, and the fact that you're going to discuss this also under new business, so thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk.
Next signed in is Kat Sorensen.
Hello. My name is Kat Sorensen, Inside City Limits, and I am the director of the Seward Chamber of Commerce. I really like this new seat. I first want to thank you for considering the marketing contract on tonight's consent agenda. This is an extension of your previous decision to allocate $300,000 per fiscal year for 2023 and 2024 to the Chamber's work as an economic development firm, visitor services provider, and destination marketing organization. We're excited and honored to continue this work and have a signed contract with measurable tasks to keep our organization on track and in line with city goals and accountable for the services that we provide under the contract. We are proud to continue to represent Seward as a great place to live, work, and play, and to be the brand ambassadors for our amazing community. And with that, I want to take a minute to recognize some of our amazing community members that we were able to honor on Friday night at our Seward Community Awards. We had a really great turnout for the awards, and we were able to, which are funded by membership and sponsorship revenue, and we were able to celebrate the Alutiiq Pride Marine Institute for their renovations. They received the Business Site Improvement Award. We also were able to recognize Christy Larson as Business Person of the Year after 40 years at First American Title. And then the Millers for Community Service Award for all of their hard work during the Lowell Point landslide. And then we were also able to honor Linda Lasota with the Board of Directors Award for all of her hard work in negotiating the contract with the Mile 12 Ski Divide area. She has received an unprecedented 50-year lease for the Seward Nordic Ski Club to operate at that area. And it's kind of one of those situations where they operate in the back and do all the paperwork, and we're really happy to honor her on Friday night. And I also want to take a second to recognize Bailey Saylor of the Seward Community Library and our city manager, Jeanette Bauer, who were nominated for awards for the Seward Business Person of the Year. Really great team of staff to have 2 people on your staff nominated this year. And if you want to learn more about that, we have a blog post with all of the nominees and why they were nominated, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Last signed in is Daryl Schaefermeyer.
Daryl Schaefermeyer, Inside the City. I appreciate this opportunity once again to have a few minutes to speak with you. I want to sound like a little bit like Martin Luther King. I have a dream. I have a dream with respect to the library heat loop project, that it will get funded and it will get completed, and it will lead to other things happening with regard to this tremendous heat source we have out here in Resurrection Bay. I'd like to see this community to be an early adopter of that form of energy. We all talk about the need to go to renewable energy, to go to energy that's not polluting the environment, and we have an opportunity here to lead out in that regard. You have a resolution tonight, 2023-23, that adopts or recommends some projects forward to Senator Murkowski for possible earmarking in this next federal budget cycle. And I was disappointed to not see that the heat loop project being included on that list. I understand that these are, there's no guarantees that projects that get nominated, put forward, will get funded, but there's no opportunity that they will if they're not put forward and nominated. You have this project, it's designed, it's essentially ready to build. It has a substantial state contribution already available to the community. Previous councils have adopted and pledged city funds to that project. And I'm here to plead with you to see your way clear to include that on your list of projects. You have some great projects on there, and I commend those. And I don't want to take away from the projects that have been put forward by the city administration on that, but I ask that you add a 6th project, if you will, one that's already been identified as a priority on your priority list. You've supported it in the past, and I ask that you continue to show that support by including that on this particular list in Resolution 2023-23. Thank you.
Thank you, Darryl. That's all that's signed in. We still have time. Does anyone else wish to speak for 3 minutes before we get started on the regular part of the meeting? think about it. Okay, I don't see any hands. All right, we are now at approval of the agenda and consent agenda, and I would ask for a motion and a second, please.
I'll move to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any changes that people would like to make? Vice Mayor Osenga.
I'd like to remove the, under other items, the approve the updated job description for city clerk from the consent agenda.
Okay. Other changes? I have one. I would like to remove Resolution 2023-023 from the consent agenda. And so by doing that, it being a resolution, do I need to move it anywhere or just leave it there? Just leave it there still. I'll do this right tonight. Any other changes? Councilmember Calhoun.
Yeah, I'd like to remove Resolution 2023-027 from the consent agenda.
Okay, any other changes? Last chance. Okay, I see none. Madam Clerk, I think we might be ready to vote on this.
Voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda. DeMoss?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda are approved and approved on tonight's consent agenda. The February 6, 2023 City Council special meeting minutes, the February 13th, 2023 City Council regular meeting minutes. You have introduced ordinance 2023-004, amending the land use plan to rezone proposed Gateway subdivision, Hilltop Addition, lots 32 through 48, block 6, and lots 31 through 35, block 4, from a single-family residential R1 zoning district to two-family residential R2 zoning district, and to rezone proposed lots 17 through 30, block 4, from a single-family residential R1 zoning district to multifamily residential R3 zoning district. This ordinance will come for public hearing and enactment on March 13th. You have introduced ordinance 2023-005, amending Seward City Code Title 5 Revenue and Finance. This ordinance will also come for public hearing and enactment on March 13th. You have approved Resolution 2023-022, supporting state legislative approval for the Alaska Railroad Additional Bonding Authority for the Seward Cruise Ship Dock project. You have approved Resolution 2023-024, approving the Planning and Zoning Commission priorities for January 2023 to January 2024. Resolution 2023-025, authorizing the city manager to purchase from Titan Energy Assets one 1,200 amp gas circuit breaker for installation in the Spring Creek substation in a not to exceed amount of $118,152 and appropriating funds. You have approved Resolution 2023-026, authorizing the city manager to pay rental fees to NC Power Systems in a not-to-exceed amount of $227,130.04 for two large generators to maintain electric service for Nash Road customers during transmission infrastructure construction. You have approved Action Memorandum 2023-002, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Seward Chamber of Commerce for the provision of marketing and visitor services. You have directed the city clerk to solicit citizen interest in serving as the city's representative on the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council with a term to expire March 2025. And you have no objection to the renewal of liquor license number 5040, Restaurant Eating Place Seasonal for Chattermark.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It's amazing how much we can get done without saying anything. These have been well read, Bill. This gets us down to the city manager report, which appears on page 4 of your packet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you know, I was out of the office, and I'd like to thank the Assistant City Manager for stepping in and taking care of everything, which is wonderful. And I had the opportunity to actually go on a cruise ship. Royal Caribbean are the anchor tenant here in Seward, and for me, I think we joke around about once you're a municipal junkie, you're just odd. As far as for me, while I'm on the cruise ship and not only just enjoying the weather and just fantastic service, it was like, how does a floating city operate? How is it different from a regular city? I tried to get tours and they just wouldn't allow me into certain places because I wanted to learn more. But while we were on the ship, everyone talked about, well, where have you cruised? Where are you cruising? On and on. Alaska came up, I don't know, like every single day, multiple times a day. When we were at our meals, you're seated and you can overhear each other. But anyway, people would talk about Alaska and they would talk about where they were going to go. So of course our group always talked to those people to make sure where they were going and to stop here in Seward. And a couple of them now have our phone numbers, but for their Seward port here. So it was Alaska by far, everyone was so excited to come to Alaska, and so that's really wonderful to hear. I did also want to touch on another item. You probably have seen with the agenda statements that especially the financial portion of it has kind of developing over time, and that's really it develops because of questions that you ask and also the public. So whenever we hear, like, I didn't quite understand what that meant, we change it. And I've had a couple people point out with the new format that we really need some more refinement. So you'll see more detailed information upcoming on future agenda statements. And I would encourage you, if you have any questions or like to see something differently, please reach out, because it's really for your information to make decisions, for the public to understand the decisions. And I always say that these documents are also for 20 years from now, so that the person researching can go, why in the world did they do that? And they can go to this and figure it out quickly. So please reach out.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? I have received, as usual, a bunch of questions about the status of the animal shelter, and I don't know if the chief wants to say a word or two. Would that be all right? Just once again stating what's going on with it.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. Not a lot has changed as far as the cat kennels go. I guess the good news there is we haven't had any updates of new pushbacks, so we're still looking at March as our production and shipping date there. I'm still working on the cabinetry and still looking for really sort of industrial grade things that will last us for a good long while. I'm having a meeting on Friday, in fact, to talk about that stuff a little bit more with one of the local stakeholders. We're working on really looking at the shipping options and what can we do outside of the shipping that's being offered by the vendors, because the vendor shipping is astronomical. Like it's unbelievably high. So still working on that. And then kind of my last point here is you remember not long ago I came before the body and you accepted a grant from the ASPCA, and that was for medical equipment or equipment associated with medical needs. And so we've compiled a list of items that is now ready to order, and it'll include things. The big ticket item really is an exam table, that'll have multiple functions and that sort of thing, and then some other associated equipment. So we've got that compiled, but again, with that one, even the shipping is very high. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to come up with something creative to keep those costs down before we place that order. But one way or the other, it's getting ordered. So that's where we're at.
Thank you very much. I know people wanted to know. It's better to come from this source. Other questions for the city manager at all? Okay, seeing none, we have a city clerk report. Madam Clerk, do you want to report on your report?
Just for the public, if you haven't heard, Peter Machicki was voted in as the borough mayor by a landslide. And we're underway getting prepared for the May 2nd special election, and perhaps by the end of this week we'll have another item for that ballot. Yeah, that's it. Not too much.
Thank you, and it is written on page 24. Question, Councilmember Calhoun.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. What I would like to do is, I just know in the Assistant City Manager's report, he said he could talk about his trip to AML in Juneau a little bit more, if he's ready to do that.
We can go back to that.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Thank you, Councilmember Calhoun. I would just say that it was, as always with AML, it was really informative. I would say that it was valuable to hear from the various state agencies. I was a little disappointed that the DOT commissioner, or excuse me, the DOC commissioner was not available. There was quite a cohort of us that had questions about community jails primed. I guess I would say that Seward, well, like Seward, many of the other 15 community jail communities were very interested in this topic. And just a couple weeks ago, I spoke to our state lobbyist and watched, there was a hearing in the House where they were talking with DOC and Commissioner Winkleman, and even communities, two of the communities in Alaska that don't have community jails, their representatives were, I would say, grilling the commissioner about the status. The encouraging thing is that there's movement taking place on that issue, and the state, while they recognize that they're not going to fully fund community jails, they did recognize that right now there's an inequity in how jails are being funded. Some are being fully funded, some are being overfunded, some are being underfunded, such as ours. And so they did acknowledge that. And then, as always, this was, I guess, my first winter conference that I was able to attend, and it was really valuable to talk to other Alaska communities, specifically the other Kenai Peninsula communities, and housing definitely is coming up as an issue statewide, and it was kind of valuable to hear that a lot of other communities are working on it, but definitely there's no silver bullet, and I would say that to some degree Seward's a little ahead of the power curve on working on that issue, so thank you for the opportunity to attend.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Calhoun. Other questions related to city manager or clerk? Don't want to backtrack too far. Okay, so that, we have no other reports or presentations or anything. So that brings us to resolutions. Taken off the consent agenda was resolution 2023-023. So that comes up now. Madam Clerk, would you please read that?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, if I can bring your attention to item 8, public hearings. We'll conduct the public hearings before the regular resolutions, please.
Okay. So they have both been moved down to resolutions, then 10A, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, sorry
Yes.
about that. Someday I'll get this together. Hold on, let me make sure I don't forget them then. Okay, so, and then that will go with other items later too. So I guess we are to public hearings then?
Correct.
And
Yes,
I move the
please.
other item to other items. Okay, so we're at public hearings now. And the first public hearing is an ordinance for enactment, ordinance 2023-003. Madam Clerk, would you please read that in?
Ordinance 2023-003 is amending Seward City Code, Chapter 3.50, Holidays. This ordinance was introduced February 13th, 2023, and is coming tonight for public hearing and enactment.
Okay, and I need a motion to enact in a second, please.
I move for the enactment of 2023-003.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, do you have something to say about it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This language, this ordinance enacts and codifies what is currently the process. Currently, employees can move the holiday within the pay period. We just don't have language that actually further defines that and speaks to that. And it also codifies the SPIA language, the Seward Public Employee Association, regarding holiday pay hours being equal to the number of hours worked. So it codifies the current processes, puts them in writing.
Okay, and this appears on page 198 of our packet. So I'll open the public hearing for ordinance 2023-003. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed in?
Yes, ma'am. The first person signed in is Sarah Lamb.
Sorry, no comment.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Attempting to sign
Wrong
in.
spot. Okay.
And, Madam Mayor, the next signed in is John.
That's, yeah, no comment.
Okay. We don't have anyone
Well,
signed
it's
in.
nice having you here. So no one else has signed in, but if you
No,
wish to
ma'am.
speak to it, you may come up. You get to do this again, Bruce.
Thank you. Bruce Jaffa, outside city limits, and I think this is the one I want to talk about. There's an effort by administration to streamline and upgrade all code language to 2023 language, which is fine. I still can live in old language, but the one thing I noticed here from my experience, and I've dealt with this both as a supervisor, a variety of the levels of supervision, and as a shop steward, that when you have a language that says at the discretion of, that's intended to allow, a cordial relation between employees, but it often is withheld. And what I've seen as the solution to that is just an inclusion of this permission or this option will not be withheld or unreasonably withheld. That seems to be give the employee an opportunity to argue up the chain. If an immediate supervisor says, no, you can't go today, and he says, well, I have a good reason to go, or the supervisor doesn't have a good reason, just doesn't like the employee. And I realize union contracts have a lot of room for negotiation using a shop steward or business agent, but just a simple inclusion of a language that allows this discretion will not be unreasonably withheld.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to ordinance 2023-003? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Any comments, questions from council on this? Okay, are we ready to vote? Oh, there is a question. Thank you. Councilmember Calhoun.
Just maybe a little bit of discussion, Madam Mayor, about what was just brought up. That kind of makes a little bit of sense to tighten that up a little bit, where it says at the department head's discretion in the second whereas. And I'm wondering, is there language we could use that makes that a little easier for the employee to make sure that they're going to get that day without anything unreasonably being done? I don't know if that makes any sense. I like what Mr. Jaffa said about it, though. Not that I don't trust the department heads and their decisions, but leaving it at anybody's discretion without maybe a little bit tighter language, if that's possible. I don't know what the tighter language exactly would be. But having said that, I would like to make an amendment to ordinance 2023-003 in the second whereas where it would read, "The language permits at the department head's discretion, which will not be unreasonably withheld, an employee, permits the employee to move a holiday to a different day within the same pay period," if that makes any sense to anybody.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Could we get that read again?
Yes, ma'am, and may I ask for a clarifying question? That language in the second whereas also appears in the section 350017, item B, number 1. I think it looks like it's similar language, and that would actually be the code language that you are wishing to amend, if you want to include that.
Okay, do you understand, Councilmember Calhoun? So you might want to include in your motion that section too, also?
Also, and yes,
Okay.
and I would like to do that also in section B of 3.50.017.
So I have the amendment as reading the language, whereas the language permits at the department head's discretion, which will not be unreasonably withheld an employee to move a holiday to a different day within the same period, pay period.
It's the same.
Right. In the second whereas as well as the section in code.
And does the second agree with the change? Okay. Discussion about the amendment. My only, I don't know, it sounds like a good idea. I worry about implications that we don't understand because I know nothing about this. Madam City Manager, do you have something?
I think it's an acceptable amendment. It still continues with the discretion of the department head because in making the determination, the department head should consider staffing is what it's really all about. Is someone who wants to take off at noon on a certain day. There, could be a very specific reason the department head has that person can't do so. So I think it still retains the discretion and unreasonably, I don't think that's a problem at all.
Okay, thank you, because it's a concern. Okay, other discussion on the amendment? Last chance. Okay, are we ready to vote on the amendment then?
Voting on that amendment, Finch,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Barnwell,
Yes.
DeMoss,
Yes.
Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That amendment is approved and your main motion is back on the floor.
Vice Mayor Osenga.
I really just need some clarification on what we're talking about here. It seems like it should be so simple to understand that I can't seem to understand what we're actually doing here. So we have certain number of holidays, and then what we're saying is if a holiday falls on an employee's day off, they will be given another day off to observe that holiday. Will they be paid holiday? And if so, how many employees are you talking about? If you have 4 employees in a department, 2 of them have the same day, do they get different? I guess I'm just trying to figure out how this all works out. I don't fully understand exactly.
Okay.
Madam City Manager.
So currently, like say for me, so Monday through Friday employee, I would just call myself that. If the holiday falls on a Saturday or Sunday, then we get the Friday off. So that's pretty straight. It's pretty straight. But as far as if the holiday falls on the employee's day off, it is. Let me see if I can explain it in a good manner. So if it falls on the employee's day off, rather than that employee receiving holiday pay on that day because it's already their scheduled day off, the holiday gets moved to a different day. So they still get their day off, no pay as normal, but the holiday then goes to a different day. So say that their day off is on Monday and the holiday was a Monday, with the department head's approval, they can take off Tuesday instead. And so that they have their regular days off, just like the rest of us would, the regular days, and then they would have a holiday as well. And it's always subject to scheduling.
Thank you.
I think more of the effect is in the 24/7 departments, and then others as well. Yeah.
Thank you, that clarifies.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense,
I had to
yeah.
get there in my mind too, so.
Other discussion? Okay, are we ready to vote on the ordinance? Looks like we are, Madam Clerk.
Voting on the enactment of ordinance 2023-003 as amended. Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That ordinance has been enacted.
Okay, we have our second public hearing on resolution 2023-021. Madam Clerk.
Resolution 2023-021 is amending the 2023 utility tariff for sewer rate service effective March 15th, 2023.
Okay, I need a motion to approve and a second, please.
I move for the resolution for the approval of resolution 2023-021.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, what you got?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is coming before you because there were some errors in the tariff as presented to you previously, and this corrects the errors. And I do want to report that the errors were on our side. They will not affect the rates. In other words, there'll be no back billing or anything else like that. After you adopt this, then starting March 15th, the correct billing will occur.
Okay, thank you. I'll open the public hearing now for resolution 2023-021. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed in?
No, ma'am.
Does anyone wish to speak on this? Okay, well, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. And I failed to mention, this is on page 206 of the packet. I had noticed that those errors were very small monetarily and for the public. I mean, in the values of $1 or so. So this isn't monumental change at all in the tariff as I see it. Any questions or discussion? Council, are we ready to vote? We appear to be ready to vote, Madam Clerk.
Voting on the approval of resolution 2023-021. Osenga?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Thank you. So now, we had removed from the consent agenda resolution 2023-023, and I believe this is time for it now.
Correct. Resolution 2023-023 is approving the calendar year 2023 projects for requested congressionally designated spending.
Okay, thank you. I'll need a motion to approve in a second, please.
I move for the approval of resolution 2023-023.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and we're most likely going to tag team this one. So as you know, you adopted the priorities for 2023, and we've been requested, there was a request made by our federal lobbyists for the council to adopt a resolution identifying projects for the congressionally delegated spending by Senator Murkowski, or actually any legislator, federal level can bring it forward. So specifically for us, it's been Lisa Murkowski. And so we looked at the priorities already in the brochure, in our pamphlet, and then added the construction of an emergency operations shelter, which came about, and Stephen can speak to that one.
So that one's an interesting item. Recently when we met with Seb O'Kelly, one of our federal lobbyists, he connected us with Lisa Murkowski's office. By the way, this was the funding mechanism for the $2 million that we obtained in 2022 for the sludge removal at Lowell Point Road. Formerly CDS, Congressionally Designated Spending, was referred to as earmarks, and Congress has gone back and forth on accepting those. Murkowski has been a very big proponent, and we believe that Representative Peltola will be as well. So when we were talking to Abby Lyons, who's one of the staffers for Senator Murkowski, we were looking at options for funding an emergency operations center as well as an emergency shelter. We looked at grant funding opportunities, and really they weren't able to come up with anything that would fit or that was in the bipartisan infrastructure law. So Murkowski's office and chief of staff recommended that we put this on our CDS list, which is why it's coming before you tonight, because that's one likely funding opportunity for a new emergency operations center and a shelter. And given our updated tsunami map that we have, it's advisable that we start looking for a secondary location that's farther up inside of the inundation zone. And I'll take any questions that you might have.
Okay, so I removed this for that very reason, to get it removed from the consent agenda, because I wanted to find out or have the public hear about that emergency shelter, but it's just, we have no idea what that would mean, right? I mean,
correct.
Permanent building, not permanent building, anything, just pie in the sky kind of thing.
Yeah,
Madam City
Mayor,
Manager.
and part of it too was that things were moving really quickly, and like I said, thank you for Stephen while he's gone working on this. Moving really quickly, and when you receive a call from the senator's office, talking about adding something, we try to be responsive, but we were hoping that in the meantime we would receive more information, but we have not as of now. So, an option for the council could be to remove it, and you can adopt a separate resolution as things come forward. So, just an option for you, but that's the origination of how it came to you. And, yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, discussion, changes, questions? Oh, there is. I'm sorry. Usually they come first. Councilmember Wells.
I'd like to ask the administration to address the request by Mr. Jaffa regarding, and others, why the heat loop project wasn't a part of this.
I can take that one. So other than the emergency shelter, all the items on the list come out of our legislative priorities guide, and that item was not on the LP guide. It is in the 2024-2028 capital improvement project list. I guess the only point I would make in addition to that is there's a good possibility that the heat loop project is going to be funded with a Department of Energy grant. So the heat loop committee that board member Jaffa from PACAB, as well as the rest of the heat loop, has been working on in consultation with our grant writer with R&M Engineering, was a grant application that we submitted in early October, and we'll find out later on this spring whether that project was funded. Looks like it probably will, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Okay, Councilmember Wells.
So does that, and thank you, does that prevent us from adding it to this?
It does
or
not.
any reason whatsoever?
No, it does not.
Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, is the heat loop project congressionally funded? Is this specifically only for congressionally designated funding projects, or?
So this CDS list will go to our federal delegation for inclusion in an omnibus at the federal level.
So currently it is not federally funded as far as the grant that Mr. Jaffa spoke of. That is through the state, that's through AEA, and it's $725,000.
So would that $725,000 be, we would have to have that in order to get congressionally funded, or how does that work?
Not necessarily.
Right. So we've got the 725 currently through an AEA grant, and the project itself is projected to be 3.6 million. And so we've pursued a grant through the Department of Energy for the remainder of the amount that we need to fill.
Councilmember?
So is it beneficial for the city to limit our request? Is that part of the reason you have only 5 here? Or is there a reason why we can't add the 6th item of the heat loop?
Last year, when we were in Washington DC and we were speaking to the senator about CDS, we did speak of water sewer expansion projects, excuse me, and we did not have an actual cost at that time for those projects. So we made sure we had costs for projects in our list this year because she was very much interested in funding that, but we didn't have a cost to give her. So we do need to identify the total cost of the project. We've received advice from our federal lobbyists to keep it, up to 10 million at the very most. So that's,
Sorry. Is the 4 million just a random number, or how did you come up with 4 million?
It's our ballpark estimate. We haven't done a feasibility study, a needs assessment, or we're still working on gathering some more data to put together for a firm cost. So that's our projection.
Okay. So we're looking at 2 million more, 2.5 million more, so for the heat loop project?
2.9.
Councilmember DeMoss.
If we decided to remove the funding for the construction of an emergency operations shelter, would you recommend that we added something else or keep it shorter?
probably, I would add, yeah, because it was recommended that we put forward 5, so I would add.
Well, I'll jump in and begin the amendment then. I would move to remove item number 3, the construction of a new emergency operations shelter, because that's something we might need, but there's no reality to that. So I would, if I have a second.
Yes, I'll second for discussion.
So, Councilmember DeMoss, yeah.
I guess my only hesitation would be to remove or just amend it to remove and replace it with something else.
I was going to do it one
Okay,
thing
sorry.
at a time. So right now, the amendment is just to remove item number 3. Vice Mayor Osing.
So can you go over again how this was brought up? I heard it, but please remind me why the shelter came up. And what is this? I mean, yeah, if you could please.
Sure. So we've had numerous conversations with various state and federal entities about the need for an emergency shelter. And we set up a separate call with Senator Murkowski's office to talk about that. They have some staff that are working on providing communities more information on the bipartisan infrastructure law, alternately known as the infrastructure bill. And so we examined funding opportunities for an emergency shelter. There really isn't anything in the grant world right now or in the BIL that addresses emergency shelters, and she recommended that we put this on our CDS list.
If I can. And so you did state earlier that a second shelter might be wise due to our inundation map. Is it a change? I mean, I haven't paid attention to where it actually...
It's actually one of the maps that we're going to add inside the council chambers. I think we can include it maybe in like a future meeting packet to show you guys.
Okay.
So it was put together in collaboration with the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Dr. Suleimani was the lead project partner on the team. And it basically is projecting a worst case scenario where our current tsunami inundation map is based off the 1964 incident. Definitely pushes the possible inundation zone higher and farther out.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, so we're discussing the amendment to remove the emergency shelter. Councilmember Barnwell.
Would it work to, it seems like an emergency shelter would have to be pretty high at this point, at least the high school, I would imagine, and that would probably be a temporary tent structure. Could we put that, instead of 4 million, put it at 1 million, and then add the 3 million in heat loop?
Madam City Manager, did you?
Yeah, we could, I feel like we don't have enough information to do that because, again, when we go to DC and when we submit the information, they really want concrete information, so I feel like we don't have enough information for that. And you are talking about speaking to the amendment at this time.
Yes. And another comment to that, right now our emergency shelter is the high school. And so we have the gym, we have that area at this point. Any more discussion on the amendment? Okay, I think we're ready to vote on the amendment.
Voting on the amendment to remove the funding for the construction of an emergency operations shelter. Demas?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That amendment is approved and your main motion is back.
Okay, so then that opens us up to a fifth possibility if there's an interest in making an amendment. Go ahead, Councilmember Wells.
I'd like to make an amendment to add funding for the heat loop project.
Okay, do you have an amount?
3.6. 3.6.
The project is 3.6.
And we have 725? So 3 million.
For 3 million. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam City Manager.
Can we put the whole amount in, just because, I mean, the whole project amount is that, and then we'll speak to what the funding, the grant amount. I just think it would give a bigger picture of the whole when explaining it.
Would you like to amend?
I'm willing to amend my suggested amendment
Or change your amendment?
to adding the heat loop project in the amount of $3.6 million.
I'll second.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to add a number, well, should we just add that as one of them? I guess it doesn't matter if it's a new number 3 or a 5. Discussion. Discussion. Okay, I think we're ready to vote on that.
Voting on the amendment to add the new item for funding the heat loop project for 3.6 million. Calhoun?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That amendment is approved and your main motion is back on.
Okay, we're back to the main motion. Any other changes, discussion? The main motion is the resolution itself. Are we ready to vote? Looks like we are, Madam Clerk.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2023-023 as amended. Barnwell?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
All right. And so the other one that was taken off the consent agenda is Resolution 2023-027. When you're ready, Madam Clerk, could you read that, please?
Resolution 2023-027 is approving amendment number 3 to the lease agreement between the City of Seward and He Will Provide Incorporated.
Okay, I need a motion to approve in a second, please.
I move for the approval of Resolution 2023-027.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and this appears on page 141 of the packet. Administration, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As stated, it does extend the lease term to 2027. I know that previously we had actually done an appraisal on the annex building and considered selling the annex building. However, at this time, that is no longer the recommendation to do. So this would extend it to 2027.
Okay, thank you. And it was removed from the consent agenda for a reason. You would, Councilmember Calhoun.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I removed it from the consent agenda simply to get a ruling on a conflict of interest, because I am a board member for He Will Provide. I don't have any financial benefit from it, but I just wanted to be open about my status there, so. That's the reason that I removed it, to get a ruling on that.
Thank you. Our current conflict rulings have to do with financial interests more than anything. I would rule that you don't have a conflict unless I hear a objection from council. Okay, so I'll rule that you don't have.
All right, thank you.
And is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2023-027. Osenga?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Okay. So now I have a question for the clerk. As usual, we removed item E3 from the consent agenda. It's an other item.
Right.
Can we discuss that now, or does it go down in other items towards the end?
I would say maybe put it as item 5. If you, there's no...
In other new business, you mean?
Yeah, there's no numbering
Okay.
protocol for that.
Okay, so I'm moving that to there. Okay, so that means we're ready to start other new business. And I want to ask council, do we need a break before we start this? Okay. I'm seeing some head nods, and I think the audience is ready for a break. So we'll get to, the next item will be the discussion of the electric utility, but let's take a 10-minute break, okay? So 8:16. Okay. I think everyone needs to stand up. We're trying to reconvene here, and I have to get your attention, so I got this thing.
Okay, we're back on, Madam Mayor, 8:16.
Okay, we're reconvening here at 8:16 after a break, and we're getting settled in. And our next item of business is a discussion of it is entitled, Discuss Council's Reasons for Moving Forward with the Electric Utility Sale. And there's stuff on page 281 of the packet, and we have administration in the form of, first, the city manager to speak to this. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to read something, and I apologize, I'm doing it verbatim. I'm not going to ad-lib because there's a lot of information, and I'm afraid I would miss that. I do have some extra copies, and of course, they'll be given to the clerk as a public, for public. So I'm just going to get started, and then once I am done, then our electric manager, general manager, we changed the title, Rob, as you know, will continue on.
Call me anytime.
Yeah. Okay, on May 9th, 2022, City Council passed Resolution 22067, directing the city manager to develop a timeline and process for examining the advantages and disadvantages of selling the city electric utility. Since that time, and after a thorough assessment that included 3 executive sessions, the council decided to proceed with a special election scheduled for May 2nd of this year and selected Homer Electric Association, HEA, as its preferred electric service provider following a formal request for proposal. In addition to receiving a bid from HEA, the city received a proposal from its current wholesale provider, Chugach Electric Association, CEA. In comparing the 2 proposals, the total financial submissions were very close, with each coming in at, between $37 million and $38 million over 10 years less depreciation, as shown in Attachment A. And again, I've got copies for you. I'm not sure if Attachment A is up there, but anyway, I have copies. Each utility also committed to increasing its fixed cash offer at closing to cover any additional investments made by the city for electric system improvements. For the council, the 2 proposals were close enough that other factors stated in the offers were used to determine which utility would be the right choice for Seward. This process included a hearing from each utility directly during an executive session held on October 27, 2022. Some of the key factors included community fit. While the council believed both utilities would be able to provide Seward with long-term energy security, council members felt HEA was better suited for the Seward community. There was a concern from council members that CEA, being a much larger utility, would not place as much emphasis on Seward's community. HEA was clear in its presentation that it wanted to be a strong partner for the community, even committing to rebranding its utility from Homer Electric Association to Kenai Peninsula Energy Cooperative. HEA also pointed to many political and business relationships and other synergies HEA and the City of Seward already share across the Kenai Peninsula due to their location on the peninsula. Board representation. HEA also committed to adding a membership district for the Seward area, ensuring representation on the HEA Board of Directors. While the seat would ultimately need approval through a vote of HEA's members, HEA said that Seward area electric customers would be allowed to participate in that board vote once the sales transaction is formally approved by the Regulatory Commission of Alaska. Also prior to regulatory approval, HEA said the city would be able to appoint a non-voting interim board participant through a selection made by the Seward City Council. Long-term rate strategy. While the council is fully aware that HEA's rates today are higher than CEA's rates, the council believes, based on the presentations from each utility, the gap in rates between the 2 today will close in the future. During its presentation, HEA discussed in great detail the investments it has made over the past decade in generation resources, energy storage capabilities, customer-focused technology, and cybersecurity. HEA further explained how these investments have positioned the utility well for meeting future industry and regulatory requirements. With many key operational and technology investments already made, HEA pointed to the stability it will realize in its member rates, and other utilities across Alaska are beginning to make similar investments. The council recognizes that HEA's rates may never be as low as CEA's, but council members believes rates between the two utilities will become more competitive and that HEA's strong focus on the community and customer service is worth the trade-off. In conclusion, a key concern of selling the electric utility that council discussed on several occasions is how would the city offset the electric department's annual contribution to the city's general fund, which in 2021 was approximately $2.1 million. One solution that would offset a sizable portion of the annual general fund contribution is the creation of a trust fund using sale proceeds after debt is paid. Annual dividends from the income generated by the fund would go into the city's general fund. Accounting estimates project that as much as 40 to 60% of the 2021 contribution could be offset through this dividend. Other offsets to the general fund contribution, such as a 10-year premium payment, a cruise ship incentive, and a lease of city office space are outlined in the HEA proposal and shown in attachment A, which I will give you. Throughout the council's assessment, its primary focus was to ensure a more secure energy future for the city's electric customers. The council firmly believes this is best achieved through a merger with a larger electric utility where there are more human and financial resources, an opportunity for longer-term rate stability due to a larger customer base, and an expanded operational resources that ensure system reliability. Today, Seward is trying to manage the changes occurring in its rapidly changing electric utility industry with only 10 employees and other limited resources. While City Council feels a merger with HEA is in best interest of Seward, council members also believe this is a decision best left up to the citizens in the May 2nd election. Before going on, as I stated, I have attachment A. I do want to state that we did listen to community members and those who are really well acquainted with finances and developing this, so we appreciate that. So this statement really came about because of community questions and also wanting to capture what has been done in the past and let the public know that things were not done in a vacuum, so to speak, and so it's all of the information is here. I know that Rob will expand and state, but I do want to state that there is a special meeting at 5 p.m. It's been scheduled on March 13th, and at that time you will have the document. There will be an executive session. You will have the document from HEA, and we'll go through that. Brooks will be here as well. Go through that, and then with the intent of you taking action on March 28th, it's 28th because it's 27th is a holiday, and then at that time the document becomes public as well as all of your actions are public. I'm going to pass this out just so you have it, and then what Rob is, we'll do that at the end. Rob will continue on. Just so you have it in front of you.
And, yeah, thank you, Jeanette. You know, for me, I wanted to just shed some light on, from a utilities perspective, kind of what this would mean for Seward as we move forward. You know, as the head of the utility, I don't really see this as a complicated issue. We're a small utility, and each day we face challenges, some days more so than others, to manage the workload and what's expected of our electric utility. When you think about how rapidly the industry is changing today, it even compounds that further. So, you know, as I look at this and I look at what are the things that keep me up at night, I'll start with our rates. You know, when I think about our rates, we have 2,900 meters. And with 2,900 meters, you only have so many to bring in revenue and you only have so many for spreading cost. So how can we achieve long-term stability with the continued large investments that we're going to have to make in the system? I also think about our resources, and you heard Jeanette mention our limited resources. We have 10 employees, and with those employees, will we ever be in a position that we can provide additional programs and services and expand our in-house expertise? And then finally, this is a big one, is our reliability. When you're a small utility with a small customer base, you're limited again with the revenues you can bring in and the number of meters you have for spreading costs. So when you start looking at the long-term picture, is long-term reliability something that we can really even meet as we go forward. If you take a look at our rates today, our rates really are competitive across the rail belt, but there's been a trade-off, and I will get into that a little bit later, but I know that since I came into the city 2 years ago, we've spent and we will continue to spend a significant amount of dollars on our neglected infrastructure, the maintenance that we've been doing, as well as clearing our right-of-ways. At some point, and I think all of you know this, these expenses go back into the rates. And again, when you're only talking about less than 3,000 customers, you start putting large investments into the rates, and there's an impact to the customers. One thing I'll point out, and this is the thing I've tried to move sewer to, is many utilities strive to increase rates every 3 to 4 years, and they want to do so with small increases, typically in the range of 2 to 4% on your base rates. And for Seward, my goal is to move us in that same direction where we're looking at rate increases every 3 to 4 years. But unfortunately, because I think as you guys have been very supportive and we're playing catch up on our system with infrastructure, technology, and many other things, the first of the increases that I see coming are going to be 10% or higher on the base rates. If you start doing this every 3 or 4 years, and eventually I think we'll drop below that 10% range, you're going to see our rates be some of the highest in the rail belt, if not the highest. So it's something that again, as the utility director, and I look at these things, I'm trying to figure out what is the long-term security, energy security for Seward. One other note I want to make is, regardless of how the vote turns out, the city of Seward and the electric utility, we're going to need to go in for a rate study and a rate increase. I would start this rate study in the summer of 2023, and with the intent of putting the increase in place in the fourth quarter of 2023 or no later than January of 2024. And again, I see that being a double-digit increase on our base rates. So not quite yet. But anyway, when I think, again, look at it, I think the way that we can achieve the long-term stability is through economies of scale. So when you associate yourself, you merge with a larger utility, you're going to have more meters. And again, those meters, you're spreading your cost and you're bringing in additional revenue. One other quick note is I know that, Jeanette went through some of the reasons that HEA was chosen. And I know from sitting in on their presentations and having visited their utility that they've made a number of strategic investments over the past 10, 15 years that have positioned them very well for the future. And so I think what you'll see from a Homer standpoint is there will be downward pressure put on rates as they move forward. Some of the investments they've already made in generation, in energy storage, and in cybersecurity, many of the other utilities in the rail belt have not made those investments yet. And so as they make those investments, they're going to have to address that in their rates as well. So yeah, this one is one that creates a lot of heartburn for me because it's resources. We only have 10 employees here in Seward, and 8 of those positions are focused on operations. I think we do a great job keeping the lights on, right? And I have to tip my hat to our crew. They don't mind getting up in the middle of the night. They respond quickly, and we usually have our lights back on quickly. But, you look at Homer. Homer has 139 employees. When you have those additional resources, you can offer the programs and services that your customers want to have. And I get people coming in my office all the time asking about, will we ever be able to do this? Will we ever be able to do that? And as we're currently staffed, no, we would not be able to do those things. We will just keep the lights on. That's the best we can do. The other big thing for me is the in-house expertise. I mentioned it earlier. Almost all the work we do, whether in engineering, billing, rate design, we have to go outside and use consultants for much of that work. And when you're doing that, it's not only expensive, but it's time consuming. It delays your projects because you have to bring these people in and you have to bring them up to speed before they can actually begin working. So, with a larger utility, you're going to have more in-house expertise, and that's something we're sorely lacking today. When you're with a larger utility too, like Homer, you're going to have more equipment, more materials at your fingertips. They have more in their inventory than we have, and being Seward, we're small, we have a limited budget, so we don't have the luxury of keeping the materials and the equipment in stock like Homer or any other larger utility can do. But just having that access to it is also another big benefit. And on the financial front, we talked about the additional meters. We've got 2,900. Homer's got close to 40,000, and if the vote goes through and we add, they will be at 40,000. So that's where we are. And then finally, it's the reliability. One of the things that I talked about when I came into this role, I talked about safety and I talked about reliability, and those are things you should never compromise. But when you're a small utility, like we are, it's a huge challenge. You're continually put in a position where you're weighing system investments against the impact to rates. And it's not a comfortable position to be in because you never want to compromise on reliability. So, I mentioned that trade-off earlier. Our rates are competitive today, but the trade-off has been the maintenance that maybe we should have been doing and the investments we should have been making were not occurring. So, if you're going to do things the right way, you're going to have to invest in the system. And for me, it's difficult for small utilities to do it. We've seen the results. I've presented in the past to the council, and we've looked at our right-of-ways. We looked at some of our infrastructure. I've got a slide coming up here shortly that will show that. I have a responsibility as a utility director to ensure that we have a reliable system, and financially, it's difficult to do that. Like I say, you're always making decisions. If you look at what we're going to do over the next 2 years with our infrastructure rebuild on Nash Road, the small section on the Seward Highway, and the refurbishment of our electric substations, we're going to be spending between $10 and $15 million on that. As you know, we took out a $10 million bond, and in 2024, we'll start making annual payments on that bond of $1.1 million. But when you start putting $10 to $15 million into your rates, and you're having to account for a $1 million annual payment, again, when you put those kind of numbers across 2,900 meters, it's going to be an impact that customers do feel. And again, we're going to see our rates continue to climb as we continue to make investments. And so, next on that one. On this particular slide, this is an example of kind of where you get if you're not maintaining the system the way you should. The picture on the left, that was taken about a little less than 2 years ago by one of our linemen. They were out on a power outage call, and this is an example of trees getting into our high voltage transmission lines. And we were very lucky, Seward, that 4 years ago, when we had so many forest fires on the Kenai Peninsula, that we did not start. One of the first things that I did coming in was I addressed the right-of-ways. And we spent significant dollars in cleaning the right-of-ways up. But I would venture to say, and I think you guys would probably agree, we've seen a lot less fewer power outages since we cleaned it up. But we've also taken away a risk factor such as that. So, I hope we continue to move in this direction. Again, you got to be willing to spend the money to make it happen. Picture on the right, that's a power pole, transmission pole on Nash Road. We've got many power poles that look very similar. We had an engineer several months back that looked at Nash Road, and he said, you do know that you have poles that are being held up by the tension of the power lines themselves. I don't think it'll work. This was actually a video as well, and one of our linemen actually walked up to that pole, and in the video, he just tears off huge chunks of it with his bare hand without any effort. I was hoping we'd be able to show that, but I don't think it's going to work because this is in a PDF, unfortunately. So, for me, again, my goal coming in is to leave Seward in better shape than I found it coming in. I've worked for large utilities. I've worked for TVA. I've been in the industry for over 25 years. And you really should not ever allow your system to get in this condition. And I know that Homer, with their management team, with their resources, they would not allow that to happen. And hopefully Seward will never allow it to happen either. So, next. At the end of the day, we can talk about it all we want, but City Council certainly knows, and we know, that this decision is going to be up to the citizens. And that's where it should be. I think, though, we would ask all citizens to make an informed decision, educate themselves on the issues. And I think if they do that, they will see the bigger picture. Now, for me, May 2nd, I see it as being more than a special election. I do believe it's an opportunity for the people of Seward to ensure the energy security of the city and the people that live here. I'm not talking about for 2 or 3 or 4 years. I'm talking 10, 15, 20, 30 years out. The issues that we have faced as a utility for so many years now, it can be a thing of the past if the citizens vote yes for this out. So that is all I have. If I take questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't really have more to add other than I would say with the summary, as you have on attachment A, it will be constantly under development. One thing that we are looking at are what are the administrative cost savings as well. We didn't have those numbers when finishing this up. So we will, continually bring this information back to you, and obviously it's public information and made available to the public as well.
Council, yes, Councilmember Wise.
So, thank you, Rob, for doing all the research on this and spending as much time as you have, and appreciate HEA for being here as often as you are and working as diligently to inform the public, much more so than the last time we were in this rodeo. One of my questions is, you've pointed out everything that needs to be done, right? But what guarantees do we, you said HEA would never allow this to happen, but what guarantees do we have that HEA is going to actually invest the money to improve these situations, and a timeline for those improvements that you're talking about that we have to do no matter what? So if the voters do vote to sell, do we have anything from HEA regarding that?
Well, I think when you're a large utility, you have the resources, the financial resources. Almost any utility I've ever worked with or associated with, they have within their budget every year a certain amount of money that is going to be guaranteed to be put into the maintenance program. And of course, working with their board, they have to decide which system investments they're going to make as well. But also, all of the cooperatives in the rail belt are regulated by the Regulatory Commission of Alaska. At the end of the day, there's very strict oversight on the utilities to ensure that they're not only providing reliable electricity, but they're providing affordable electricity. So there are a number of checkpoints in place to ensure that the cooperatives are doing things the right way. Again, I don't want to sit here, I don't know why some of the things weren't done in the past. I believe a huge factor when you're in a situation like this is you're weighing those investments against what it's going to mean into rates. And if investments had been made through the years the way I think they probably should have, then our rates today would be higher already. So I think that you just have to look at the company you're dealing with, the people you're dealing with. I know that the council made the decision to choose Homer, and you guys made that decision for a reason. And I think one of the reasons is because of the way they presented themselves and the plans that they walked us through. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other council comments, input, questions? Councilmember Calhoun?
Yes, one question. I'm sure it's all going to, come out in the next few weeks at different meetings and stuff, but I know a lot of people have been going, okay, but what's that going to mean to the bottom line, really, of, when everything, if the sale goes through, what we're going to do with the money, what are we going to pay off, what kind of debt will that relieve from us? There's been talk of, a permanent, setting up almost like a permanent fund kind of thing where the investment, the income made off of that helps replace the downfall from what we get from electric utility in only that, to help that. And I just want to know when is that, the more specific information going to come out? Is that after the actual sale proposal is done? Or is it before that? Do we just have ideas on that?
Regarding the debt, so we've been in conversations with our bond attorney and our finance director, and then deputy finance, or our appointed finance director and deputy finance director. So there's a process that that we go through for the bonds. It's unlike what I thought it was going to be, so it was also a learning opportunity for myself. So the bonds have to, of course, be paid off with the sale. How it functionally works is that we move the funds into an account not held by us. It'll be held through a financial firm with the bonding associated with bonding, and those funds are held until the funds become callable. So when they're callable, then those funds will be used to pay it off. So those funds go from, we receive from the sale into a whole nother system to pay off the bonds. So that will occur with the close of the sale. And then I believe next meeting, there will be an ordinance introduced regarding what we're calling the trust fund, but regarding the funds and how they operate. The trust fund operates. Does that make sense? Okay.
Jeanette, if you don't mind, I'll
Yeah.
jump in. Yeah, and I think to your point, I think where you were going is, will the city, how's the city planning to make up the contribution that's currently coming from the electric department into the general fund? When Jeanette read the document into the record, 2021, that amount was 2.1 million. Based on what our projections are, as far as putting together a permanent or a trust fund, whatever we want to call it, we're projecting that we're somewhere in the $1 million to 1.3 or 1.4 million dollars that would come out of that trust fund. And then there are other mechanisms that I think you see on the sheet, the document in front of you, of how there would be other ways that they could help offset that contribution that's going into the general fund. There is certainly, with the premium payment that's listed on that document, that's a 10-year transition period. So I think that, we're there with meeting it, certainly over the first couple of years, first 10 years. But, is it something that the city's going to have to be preparing for and looking at as we look 10 to 15 to 20 years out? Then yes, I believe so.
Other Councilmember Barnwell.
So, just to, I get that right, you have the trust fund will cover about half of our payments.
Right.
And then the rest of the payments will be taken out of the payments that are coming in from Homer Electric, right? For 10 more years.
That's a part of the proposal that they put in front of us, yes.
Okay. And then the other question I had was the cruise ship power incentive. Can you explain what that is?
In the original proposal from Homer, they were looking at doing a possible lease of the property for the cruise ship docks. At the time, they were unaware that that property belonged to the railroad. So as we're looking at the future, obviously if you have cruise ships that are taking shore power, there's going to be revenues associated with that. So, at this point, it may not be a lease per se, but we're looking at some sort of incentive program of payment of some sort that would come back to the city so that the city is reaping some financial benefit from having cruise ship power.
So, as I understood, the cruise ships weren't plugging in for years. Is that going forward, or they're going to be definitely plugging in?
Take that one.
Madam Mayor? Yes, so the intent is that the power is supplied to the cruise ships, and that they will be plugging in. Some ports have where it's mandated. Again, they will be on the railroad side, so it'll be up to the railroad to decide if they mandate that. But and then there, honestly, down the road could be EPA requirements where they plug in rather than have the diesel engines going. So it's a preferred mechanism is to plug in, preferred by cruise ships.
Yeah, and I believe the railroad, they're starting from an engineering standpoint to look at it from a preliminary standpoint. How, is it going to happen? I think at some point in the future, it will happen. I think that's the direction that the cruise ship industry is going to go in. What is that year for Seward? I don't know. But hopefully 3 years, 4 years out, maybe.
Rob, just another question, just thinking of that, because I remember when those generators were put in, we had the excess capacity for the cruise ships in case there was an emergency or we needed excess power for those. Is that right?
Correct.
At this point. So how is Homer Electric going to incorporate those? Is that to their benefit to have those, or are we just going to keep those and they're going to run that?
The power plant and the generators? Yeah, in our conversations with Homer, and they may want to jump in and answer as well, they've indicated they have no plans to shut down that power plant. To them, that is a huge asset, and I think Seward and the people here already know it's a huge asset. The fact that if we lose power coming in from the Seward Highway, coming from the north, we can have that plant cranked up in about an hour, and we can serve every single customer that we've got in Seward and surrounding communities. That plant is capable of producing 15.6 megawatts of power. Our typical load is somewhere between 8.5 megawatts. So we have almost twice the capacity needed just from that plant alone. So Brad, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Before we do that,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, would that acceptable that we?
Oh, I guess that's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's okay with council to suspend any rules we might have for this and allow this, I think.
Thank you.
Sure, thanks, Madam Chair. Brad Janorski, General Manager of Homer Electric, and it's a great question, Chair. It's a great question, and I think Rob nailed it, that we have no plans to retire. In fact, we look at them as very valuable. We've already got 2 diesel units in Seldovia, a single unit in Port Graham that we use for the exact same purposes. We've got plenty of capacity right now, and so that would not be a problem at all.
Councilmember
Brad,
Hartwell.
one more question on that. That power can't go back. It can't go both ways, can it? It could. Those generators couldn't push power over to Soldotna in a case of a.
They
in case you
could,
needed it.
excuse me, through the chair, They could be used both directions. The drawback is these are diesel run units, much like our two in Soldovia. And over there, everything we've got at Bernice Lake, which is almost 80 megawatts, another 80 megawatts at Nikiski, another 48 in Soldotna is all natural gas fire generation. And that is much more efficient on a BTU basis as compared to diesel.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Councilmember Thomas.
I have a question about the utility billing. Are you going to be taking every single account and analyzing it to make sure it's classified properly? As far as commercial versus residential, and how does that work in that transfer?
You won't. Yeah.
You could sit.
I mean, sure, through the chair.
Yeah, just pull up a chair.
This is our new system now.
It works. We would look, through the chair, Brad Janorski, General Manager, Homer Electric, we would look at every account to make sure it falls in. I think as mentioned earlier, we are economically regulated by the RCA, the Regulatory Commission of Alaska, and per that we have tariffs in place that you follow within, depending on what type of service you have, you fall within certain tariffs. So we would envision that at some point, and I think to Mr. Calhoun's question earlier, the details of what we call an APA, or asset purchase agreement, would be known to the council and to my own board later this month in great detail. And that spells out very clearly a lot of the questions that are being asked tonight. If I may, Madam Mayor's comment on Director Wells' question about maintenance. When I got interviewed at Homer Electric 19 years ago, I grew up dairy farming in central Minnesota. One of the questions that, and they asked me, and I said, I grew up dairy farming. I put a lot of pride in operation and maintenance. And prior to that, I was responsible for 2 different utilities, much like the size of this one, where we had between 18 and 25 employees. Very challenging, many hats, limited resources. And I told the board straight up back then that if you're not going to prioritize maintenance as being at the top of your budgeting process every year, you're interviewing the wrong guy. And I asked him not to hire me. And I am very proud to say, after 19 years, I've been turned down 0 times on maintenance-related requests to my board of directors. So that precedence, along with a lot of the new things that I'm referred to 2 weeks ago, from the Senate Bill 123, which is the Electric Reliability Organization, the new electric reliability standards, the new cyber standards are all going to drive us to put money into maintenance whether we want to or not. And that maintenance could be with the infrastructure, poles and wires, or it could be with your computer system or IT system in substations. So hope that provides a little more clarification.
Thank you.
Okay. This has been very valuable. Any other comments, questions? I think that what the public's heard and what will be on record now is answer to a lot of questions of why and how did we come up to this decision, and I hope the public realizes that we chose Homer Electric after considerable listening to presentations from both parties and much discussion amongst the council members. It was very thorough, and so we had our reasons. I think you've heard a bunch of those reasons tonight, and the questions will continue, I know, and there will be more information about the monetary part as this comes out. So is there anything else that we need to, you'd like to say tonight before we move on?
For me, sorry about that. For me, I would just thank you, council, for this time, and we continue to get questions. We'll continue to bring them forward in this type of format, or any other type of format that we can, to address them so that the public can receive all of the answers, and just encourage the questions to continue so that we can address them.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, I think with that, that wraps up this discussion, unless there's anything else. Okay. Thank you very much. We have a whole lot of Homer Electric here tonight, as you heard earlier too, so really appreciate this. And there are continuing, the meetings coming up, the listening sessions or the question answer, those will be on our website, right? The new dates of...
Yes, I haven't received that flyer,
Okay.
but I'll get it. Yep.
So we'll have that out and everything. Okay, thank you. Okay.
We have them over here.
Okay. Moving along is the second item in other new business. It is non-objection to the renewal of liquor license number 53, the Club for the American Legion Post number 5. So I know there would be, do we need a, how do we do this? We have to vote on this though, right? So we need a motion?
Right, but first we...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this one I
Councilmember Calhoun.
definitely need to recuse myself from because there is a financial interest involved here.
Yes, I will rule that he, would you want to explain for the record why? I guess
Well,
we should.
because I'm the club manager for the American Legion and am the paid employee of that organization.
There you go.
And so this liquor license has a lot to do with my employment.
Okay. I would rule you have a financial conflict here, so you...
Remove myself?
I guess so, yes. You should. You can sit out there.
I'll just cruise on out.
But, okay, so now I would need a motion to, how do we say this? A motion to state non-objection
Yes.
to the renewal of the liquor license for the American Legion, and a second, please.
I'll second.
Actually, we need a motion first.
Oh.
That's okay.
For the non-objection to the renewal of liquor license number 53, Club for the American Legion Post number 5.
And he'll second again.
I'll second it now.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, I think we're ready to vote.
Thank you. Voting on the non-objection to the renewal of liquor license for American Legion. Wells?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That motion is approved. Thank you.
Okay, we can get him back in here. Yeah, that's an important part of Seward. I understand this.
Still got a job.
Okay. The next other new business item is to consider lifting the moratorium on records destruction. And that was brought to us by the clerk, and it is on page 305 of the packet. And Madam Clerk, could you just describe this and explain it to us, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, so some time ago in January 2021, there was direction by council for the city manager to conduct a request for proposal for a forensic audit. And at that time, it was very appropriate that council made the motion to put a moratorium on records destruction. That is definitely in compliance with the state administrative code. I believe, I'm bringing this forward again because it was left that that moratorium would remain in effect until council lifted it. And so I'm guessing that it may be safe to lift, but I wanted to put that in front of council to decide whether you're comfortable lifting the moratorium at this time or not.
Okay. Do we need a motion before we discuss, or can we just discuss, Madam Clerk? Since this isn't a formal.
I would think you can discuss it.
Just discuss, okay.
And-
Any input on this? Vice Mayor Osenga.
Do we have a limit on how long we save these?
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, do we have a time that we save them for before they're just?
Yes, the city has an approved record retention schedule, and so based on what type of documentation it is, it could last from 30 days or a year up till 7 years, 10 years or more.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions or comments? I guess my question would be, is there a feeling that we would need to continue the moratorium for any reasons relating to that three-tier audit that has been done? I mean, that was the reason for it. So do we consider that we're cool now to go ahead with the regular destruction? Councilmember Finch.
Ms. Mayor, my question is the city's requirements, is it the same as what the state would require, or is it less time frame? Let's say the state requires the older records for 10 years, and the city dropped it down to 7.
We are, our record retention schedule is modeled after the state's record retention schedule. And if I can, I'll just add this for, just for edification. The process that we have in place before any record gets destroyed is that they're first reviewed, and then the records that are qualified to be destroyed are presented to each department for review. And every department then has the opportunity to request that the records remain for an additional period of time, and they can ask for a number of years. And that would put them back into retention.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, so the way this works is if you want to, it takes a motion. If we feel, or if you feel that the moratorium no longer needs to exist, then the motion would be to lift the moratorium.
I would move to lift the moratorium.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to lift the moratorium that was put in place January 11th, 2021. Discussion? Are we ready to vote? It looks like we're ready to vote, Madam Clerk.
Okay, voting on the motion to lift the moratorium on records destruction. Calhoun?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Thank you, that motion is approved.
Okay. So next on our list, we have two individuals that have put in to stay on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're voting and appointing two individuals to the Planning and Zoning Commission with terms to expire February 2026. The applicants are Victoria Monaco and Vanessa Derhe, and they are both currently on Planning and Zoning. Discussion about this. Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I have some concerns. I'll start off by saying this is nothing personal against either of the applicants at all. But, it's very important for Planning and Zoning Commission to have a commission membership that is active enough to make sure that they can have a quorum for all of their meetings and all of their work sessions. Because if Planning and Zoning does not have a quorum and can't conduct their business, it delays business that we need to conduct. And if you can think about it, and I have a little closer knowledge than some of you, they have missed a lot of meetings or work sessions over the last year because they didn't have a quorum. And that's something that I think they're trying to address a little bit in some coming, something that'll come to us later. But I have a little bit of an issue with both of these commissioners and the amount of time that they are either out of state or just, there's been a lot of last minute, same day, same afternoon, notifications to the chairperson or to the community development director that an individual wouldn't be able to make it to the meeting, and there was no way to plan around it or try and figure it out. So for me, I actually am not in favor of approving either of these candidates to continue on.
Other comments? Councilmember DeMoss.
Well, I share Councilmember Calhoun's sentiment. I appreciate both of them reapplying and wanting to do it. I appreciate Commissioner Fairhays letter to us especially, and her desire to do so, and her issue with having to be out of town more so for her family's needs, and potentially that even becoming more of an issue in the future, gives me concern. And like you said, you know, this isn't necessarily, this is a group that we're waiting on, you know, their recommendations to get business done. And so I have also experienced, I was on planning and zoning, and it's been kind of a issue for a long time, and I think that it's important to set that standard and adhere to it. So attendance is a basic qualification. People have to meet it. That's where I'm at.
Okay, others? Vice Mayor Osinga.
So I'm assuming that we open this up for people to sign up to join this commission. And these are the only two that signed up for this round to try to be on this commission, I'm assuming? So we had an open call, said, hey, sign up to be on this commission, and these are the only two. So my question is, if no one else did, and we don't approve these two, what are we actually limiting? I mean, we're gonna sign them down to, what was it, a 7-member board, so they'll be down to 5? And then they have to open up another, they have to have another opening to try to recruit other applicants?
Yes.
I guess my point is that if we don't do this, they're down to 5, and then 1 or 2 others don't show up. I mean, I don't know, it's just, it seems like we're kind of shorting them. I guess that's my view, is that we would be sending them, you know, we'd be just dropping them down to 5, and that's probably not really a good idea. I mean, I'm sure there's reasons, I don't know what you guys know, I'm wondering if that's going to be an issue if we just limit them to 5 now without, I mean, if no one else signed up and they open it up again, what if no one else?
I'll get
Thank you.
Councilmember Wells, and then I'll come home.
So I understand that one of the members is having, and how do I pronounce her last name, somebody? Is having family problems? Vieira, right? Okay. Well, we can all respect that, absolutely. I think we can. I believe that what I understand is she'll be back quite soon, and when she is here, she's a great asset. So I hear where you're coming from, but what it sounds like planning and zoning, what's happening right now is we're already down 2. So by issuing it to, by appointing these 2, we can't put it back out for more, and we're stuck. Right? And so I'd be willing to meet you halfway there. Keep one and open it back up for the other one.
Let me get Councilmember Fish first.
He pretty much said what I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
Because if we bring these 2 in, we can't open it back up.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I would just back that up. I just think that Verhey, I think that the Title II language is going to change, and that might solve that problem if she continues to have that problem. Whereas Monaco has shown that she is not very serious about this position. So I would be in favor of letting Monaco go and keeping Verhey. Also because of the fact that it's really hard to get people, it's hard to find people on these boards these days, and Verhey has shown that she's competent when here.
Okay, well, this is really tough because, you know, we're talking about people that are volunteering to spend their time as much as they seem to be able to. We've gotten, I mean, I've watched the meetings and I've seen who's there and not there. We've gotten recommendations from folks saying keep one, let the other go, and then the exact flip-flop of that. This one's wonderful, this one isn't. And so, I mean, we're making value judgments here. My hope is that the changes that will be made to tighten up the absence or the attendance requirements, and you know, you can't miss 3 meetings in a row or you're out. I mean, make that an absolute, or whatever you guys are coming up with. I'm thinking that will solve the problem. If we say no to both of these people, and no one else has applied. I mean, maybe people didn't apply because they just didn't realize there was a need. I mean, but we haven't been really getting mass quantities of people applying for planning and zoning, so I don't know. I'm really torn. I guess what we need is a motion one way or the other, and then we can take some votes. But my personal thing right now is I'd like to keep them on both. Okay, this is what I think. I'll keep them both on and see if we can tighten up the language, and if it becomes problematic, then they'll be kicked off and we could get somebody else. But maybe, and this is assuming that the language will be tightened. We'll be voting on that when it comes up, so it will be kind of up to us to have that tightened language, I believe, right? So, just a thought. Okay, Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. I was just going to ask on the timeline for tightening up the language.
That is a question for administration in the form of Jason Bickling, I think. Can we suspend the rules and let him come up here and talk?
Please.
Second. Yeah, if you've got some input.
The attorney has just finished up the final review, so that we'll be getting that to you very shortly here. So, yeah, so within
March 28th.
Yeah, March 28th.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, here's another thought. I guess we're getting good at this thing. We could postpone this decision until that comes forward. That is another thought. Councilmember Calhoun.
Yeah, I don't know that postponing it until that comes forward is really going to make much difference on anything myself personally. So if it's okay with you, Madam Mayor, I'm going to make a motion that we accept both of these candidates for their positions through February of 2026.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to accept both. Is there discussion? Okay, we're getting discussion. Councilmember DeMoss first.
Well, I would not be in support of accepting both, but I would be in support of accepting Barry.
So, Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. Am I understand correctly, Councilmember Calhoun, that your recommendation is to accept both because we have code change, verbiage changes coming on March 28th, and we will be able to let all of the appointees row their own river, if you will?
That's basically it. It's a little bit of change in thought process on a quick thing, but, possibly, because based on my observation of almost all of the meetings, when these individuals have been there, their input's been good, their thought process is good. I know that some people won't be very happy if that happens, but, as I think about it just here, and I'll admit I didn't really think about the upcoming changes that would take care of the issue if there was an issue. Maybe those upcoming changes will motivate all the commissioners to attend more meetings, or at least make their absences known earlier so that maybe their adjustments can be made. But that's my thought on it. Because again, Vice Mayor Osenga made a good point that if we don't appoint one or two of them, then we're leaving a vacancy anyway, and it has been difficult to get people to apply for these commissions. So maybe we just roll with it this way and see how the change that's coming to us in a couple, 3 weeks affects it.
Other input? Do we want to vote on the motion? Madam Clerk, would you please read the motion?
Voting on the motion to appoint Victoria Monaco and Vanessa Verhey to the Planning and Zoning Commission with terms to expire February 2026. Calhoun?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Barnwell?
No.
Finch,
Yes.
Demas,
No.
Osenga,
Yes.
Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That motion has been approved.
Okay, so hopefully we will see this new resolution and things will clear up that way. Okay, the final item is moved from E3. It is approved the updated job description for the city clerk, and if anybody's still reading the packet, that's on page 188. And I asked to, oh no, actually it was, sorry, it was Vice Mayor Osenga that asked to remove this, and so would you like to speak to that?
I just asked for this to be removed because I would like to move making a decision on this till the next meeting. I think that there are some things in there that might affect administration and things that I don't really fully understand, so I wanted to be able to just kind of dive into it a little bit deeper. I just wanted to spend some time to look at it.
So are you making a motion to postpone?
Postpone this, yeah. I'd make a motion to postpone this till the March 13th meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion other than that? I kind of agree, there's a lot there, and I have not had the time to really look at it, and 2 weeks will... Any other discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote on postponing.
Voting on the motion to postpone to March 13th, Barnwell,
Yes.
Finch,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That motion is approved.
Okay, thank you. So, if you're interested, there are minutes from PACCAB on page 311 and HP on 315. And I believe that's all our business. So we're down to citizens' comments at the end, which you have 5 minutes per speaker. And I see someone running up here right now, so just, you know, the usual routine here on the comments.
Jason Bickling, outside city limits. I just want to say thank you. I really do appreciate council's support of planning and zoning, and just working with us to try and tighten things up so that we can do work efficiently. It's really frustrating for me, and I know it's frustrating for you guys when we have these things that are sitting outside in the community that we need to get done, whether it's like title issues or just normal business. But I just want to say thank you. I really do appreciate your support in helping us kind of get to a right place, and that will be coming before you, like I said, in the end of March or the 28th. So anyway, I just want to say thank you for your support. I really, really do appreciate it.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Yeah, come on up. You sat here a long time to be able to say.
Sharon Stevens Ganser, outside city limits. I want to thank you for passing Resolution 2023-27 on behalf of He Will Provide Food Pantry. It's an important thing for this town to have. We've had over 185 different individuals come and use the food pantry since the beginning of January. That's a lot. I wanted to, there's been some discussion or some talk about the food pantry being affiliated with a religious organization, and it is not. It was started in 1997 as part of the ministerial association that was giving people money that came to them that needed some assistance. And they decided that they needed to get something that was more formal. So the ministerial association began He Will Provide, but it has no affiliation with any religious group in town. We have many volunteers from many different aspects of the community. The food pantry is run purely on donations and grants that are written by board members. I just wanted to clear that part of it up. Also, I have a different question. As far as the utility sale is concerned and the vote on May 2nd, will that be open to all utility users, or is it going to be a citywide, just a city residents vote? I think it should be open to all clients, utility clients, so that because We all pay for it, whether we live in city limits or not. So, thank you.
We'll address that in the response. Other people wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Kat Sorensen. I live inside the city limits. And first, as the chamber director, I want to thank you for reaffirming the contract for the marketing services, visitor services, and economic development. Me and my team really look forward to working diligently to fulfill the contract and beyond in the coming 2 years, and hopefully further. And I definitely want to invite you again to please swing by the chamber offices. We're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 4. I would love to show you around, chat a little bit about all the stuff that we're working on. Lots of cool things. And then registration for Mount Marathon Race opens March 1st. So March 1st to March 31st, registration is available. Just for people who may have heard about the new rule changes last year, it's making it a lot easier for more people to get into the race for the first time. Last year, 42% of women who applied in the lottery got in, 22% of men, 100% of junior girls, and 82% of junior boys. We also were able to see 12% of all racers identified as Seward locals, and 72% identified as Alaskans. So we're really excited to see those lottery numbers get up a little bit so we can get some new racers towing the line. So you guys should all register. I'd be really excited to tow the line with you on July 4th. We also are opening up the logo contest from March 1st to March 31st to design this year's logo. So anybody who's interested in that, please check out our Facebook or our newsletter or swing by and I'll tell you more information. Putting on my citizen cap for a second, I wanted to remark on how great Parks and Rec has been lately. Last week, I went to pickleball on Wednesday at 4, then I went to volleyball and spectated some competitive games at the middle school at 8:30. On Thursday, I played 5 games of chess with people I've never played before. On Friday, I went to the sauna and played some more volleyball, and then Saturday, I didn't go, but I heard there was some cool roller disco going on. And it just feels really nice to be in a community space, see people around, get to play chess with people I don't usually get to play chess with, get to play pickleball, which I've never played outside of Florida. So it was super cool, and I want to commend that whole team for all of the hard work they've been putting in on making some cool indoor spaces that I really enjoyed, especially when it's really windy out. So thank you.
Bruce Jaffa, outside the city limits. It was an interesting meeting tonight. I'm glad to see the curtain come open a little bit on the Homer Electric sale. The manager's presentation of the events that you all went through, the number of executive sessions that have been shielded till now, the veil started to part. I think it's public information. It should be public. I think it's essential to the public to understand your thinking for them to make a good decision. I think if the facts, I'm not coming out at this point with pro or con on this, except that I think if the facts are actually presented in a rational and complete way, the merit is there to justify the sale. But I think it's very tenuous. And I think to realize, I hear community members as far as Cooper Landing comment on this. They may be not as well informed as you, obviously, but they're forming opinions. The voters of Seward will be forming opinions, and you owe it to them to give them a very candid and accurate presentation of the economic influence, because that's what people will vote on. You know, there's a feel-good aspect and all that, but they'll vote on their wallet. I'd like to thank the restaurants in Seward who are open, and businesses who are open. I think they deserve a lot of credit. It's easy today to go by a certain model, which is 90 days, and go snowbird somewhere. I appreciate those businesses that endure even at maybe reduced revenue flows, so thanks to them. The PACAB, you may have heard Homer Electric thank me for offering them an invitation to PACAB. PACAB will host a presentation from Homer Electric regarding heat pumps and innovative technology at the March 22nd meeting. We'll have a March 8th meeting for regular business, which will include a resolution to restore PACAB priorities, and I think some rules and a SMIC development review. But the March 22nd meeting, we hope to publicize in a variety of ways, certainly through the clerk and normal methods and other ways to give the public an opportunity to come in there. There is a whole number of people who are concerned with green energy. And Homer Electric is very upfront, advanced in that. You guys have probably heard all their promotion and stuff, and I know from the shovel side, you know what it looks like. I appreciate City Council restoring the heat loop into the package that was presented tonight. I think it's we hope on the ad hoc group that in fact that our problems are over and all these grants are going to come through. But in fact, the first grant is really a background. It's a training through AvTech. It's doing some groundwork, but it won't build the project. And to follow down that train will be 2025 before we are ready to do anything. If there's other opportunities for a shovel-ready project, and there's funding available through Senator Murkowski's office. We're going to see an early cherry blossom season in DC, and I have my backpack. But carrying that bullet point to Washington, DC would be something I wouldn't mind doing. Again, I would like to be very appreciative for Lydia Jacoby. She just won another event, and she brings honor to the city of Seward. And we are best, the best light we can shine on ourselves is the glory of our children. So I think we can all appreciate her success. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Darrell?
If I can get up. Darrell Schaefer-Meyer, Inside the City. I want to speak a little bit as a 70-year shareholder in the electric utility. It's how long I've resided, it's been officially a resident of Seward. And I want you to understand the importance of enterprise funds in a government, in a community like ours, that have reaped back to the community substantial benefits over the years. And I think we have to look at that and reflect upon that in the history of this question that is coming before the community on May the 2nd. I've been giving it some study. I'm going to give it more study. I'm going to go to some of the sessions that Homer Electric is holding. They're a great utility. I'll tell you right now, I'm inclined to support the proposition, but I'm concerned about the economics. Back to the shareholders. There is a specific reason that there are shareholders in this question. They are the voting residents of Seward. And the enterprise fund, besides providing a utility that benefits not only the city residents but outside the city, is to provide an economic return back to the general fund of the city. And that the electric fund has done substantially well over the years, to the point where it has actually benefited to keep down the taxes, the property and sales taxes that the stockholders of the corporation have had to pay. And I've looked at the numbers and I see where there's some analysis done. I submit I think you should have some expert analysis of the question to really understand what the rate of return really truly can be off of a permanent fund or whatever fund you want to call it, to help mitigate the gap that is going to exist when the utility is sold to Homer Electric. I mean, look at the numbers right now. There seems to be some view that there's going to be enough coming back in the initial 10 years to offset or to supplant the $2 million that currently is contributed by the electric fund to the general fund. And I think that's all in well and good, but I'm a little paused when I look down. After 10 years, that number drops down to 1.2 million. If anything, that number needs to rise with inflation and other things that go along, and not just think that 2 million is going to solve the problem. I really would not like to see the sale of the electric utility happen at the expense of the property owners, the businesses, and the citizens that live inside the corporate limits of Seward. The reason we have a Seward is because of those who live inside the city, that invest, have our homes, and pay property taxes there. And you know, quite candidly, that's how you have to look at it. You are the shareholders or the board of directors for that corporation. That's your primary duty, to look to the benefit of those who live inside these corporate limits. And then I hope you can do that. I know that you've already decided the question substantially. It's going to be on the ballot on May the 2nd, and I hope that it gets full public airing and the voters understand the benefits. And I think there's substantial benefits to the electric utility and to the electric customers for this proposition. But I'm concerned about the negatives, and that is being, what's it going to do to the general fund? I would hate to see property taxes or sales taxes have to go up, or a diminution of other services that the general fund of the city provides to its residents because of this thing going forward. And I ask you to look at that. I'm going to look at it. I hope that the voters look at it. I hope the city administration continues to look at that. And I hope we fully develop what is the reality here as far as what this proposal is going to provide in answering that question. That's a substantial question for me that I need to have an answer on before I go to the ballot box on May the 2nd. And I appreciate all your work that you've done on that. I hope you will look into this fully and completely and have a good analysis of what the impact's going to be to the general fund of the city. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, wow. I'll bring it back to council and administration comments and responses to citizens' comments. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In response to citizen question comments, our attorney has advised that according to the charter, only the City of Seward voters can vote on the question. And that is because the City of Seward owns the utility, and so therefore only City of Seward voters can vote on it. And beyond that, I have no further comments.
Okay, let's start with Councilmember Barnwell. Comments?
Great meeting. Nothing in particular. It's an informative meeting. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Finch.
I want to thank Homer Electric and our electric company.
Councilmember Thomas.
I also would like to thank HEA for being here, for our electric company, for Rob being here. I do think that HEA is doing a great job on getting their information out on what they can offer us, and I think that we need to really focus on our end and get the information out to the public on how this is going to financially affect us, even past that first 10 years. People are going to look at how, you know, this is going to affect us for years and years and years to come financially, what it's going to do to our general fund. So I also have those concerns. I'm very excited about the potential sale, and I do think it's a really good fit that I would like to see. It's a big chunk of money that our community has been counting on for a long time. So I would like to see a plan and an analyzation from financial experts on that, especially because we don't have a financial, person right now. What else do I have here? I wanted to say congrats to the Chamber winners, and thank you to the Chamber for putting that together. I think it's, especially this time of year, a really good kind of feel-good event for people and gets people excited about what they're doing, and I think that the way that you guys put it together is really well done, so thank you. Parks and Rec has been doing amazing, and congratulations to Mel Haas for the new deputy position. She's so awesome, and I'm so glad to have her back in Parks and Rec. And I think we have a great crew, and I love seeing all of the activities happening and more gym time and sauna time and all of that. And the days are getting longer, so that's good, right? That's all I got.
Okay, Vice Mayor Osenga.
Well, you guys all said it. I was just, thank you to AGA, thank you to administration, Rob. All this information coming forward is well, it's just very good. I think, that we just all need to remember that we, as citizens of this town, and when we're going to be voting on this issue, that we need to be informed. So I think questions should be asked, and we should be trying to find out this information. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for us and the citizens of Seward to get the information and the answers to the questions that they might have in this issue. I am ready for spring, and someone said snow, so I'm not happy.
6 to 8 inches, Joe.
Okay, thank you. Well, yeah, thanks. It was wonderful having so many from HEA here, and to see my old friend Wayne Ogle. And it is true, I think in all the years we were together on the assembly, we only voted the same way. I believe he must have kept track 3 times, but it was like there was shock, there were gasps, we high-fived. But a very, very good person to work with. I wanted to offer a congratulations to Peter Machicki. We now have a new mayor, and at least until October, and then they'll all run again, and it'll be the full term at that point. But that was a good election. I have to say, I'm really disappointed in the turnout, but I'm always disappointed in the turnout. So you can't do much about that. I wanted to welcome my predecessor here, and she's been very quiet, but welcome, Christy. It's nice you sat through this whole thing, and we had former Mayor Squires here, and we had, all Daryl's here, and it's like old home week, so that's all good. And I don't know, because we've been stuck in here since forever, but if it's not cloudy, there's supposed to be northern lights tonight again, so you might look outside if you ever get out of here and see that. So with that, we're not quite done, because we will be going into executive session. So I would ask for a motion. You'd need to, I'll just go ahead and make the motion. To go into executive session per Seward City Code 2.10.033E2, subjects that tend to prejudice the reputation and character of any person, provided the person may request a public discussion. This would be the regularly scheduled city manager evaluation. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. I'd like to vote on this, and then we might take a quick break. So, Madam Clerk, could we vote on the going into executive session, as these people are leaving anyway?
Voting on the motion to move into executive session. Calhoun?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Here.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Finch?
Are you
Yes.
here?
Osenga?
Yes.
Moss?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That motion is approved.
Okay, so this will involve the city manager and council, and can we take a 5-minute break? Is that enough? Okay, so let's reassemble at 9:47. I'll give us that extra minute.
Somebody keep an eye on Bob. We might get lost.
He does get lost
Coffee or
easily.
something over here.